Hello, and welcome to my little city homestead. Today, I'm going to be making home canned cranberry juice. Cranberries are in season this time of year, so they're perfect for little projects like this. You can find them to be very reasonably priced. Here, I am washing and sorting the cranberries as I put them into their jars. Cranberries freeze very well, so don't be afraid to buy them in bulk if you find a really good deal. At this point, I figured it would probably be a good idea to start boiling the water in my water bath canner. That way it would be ready by the time I was done. This recipe is nice and simple. It only calls for 3 ingredients: your cranberries, sugar, and water. You might be wondering why there's a big bowl of popcorn behind my jars. I happen to be making this cranberry juice recipe at the same time I was making my Christmas garland recipe. Make sure to check out that video. Here, I'm just trying to remember if I put 1 or 2 scoops of sugar in that jar. Since the water in my water bath canner is almost boiling, I'm going to use my kettle to boil some water to put in each jar. Doing this helps to make sure that your jars won't crack and to hopefully help prevent some siphoning from happening. You kind of want the temperatures of both inside and outside of the jar to be the same. Here, I am getting the rings ready for each of my jars. I use my rings over and over and over again. As for the lids, however, I like to use brand new ones and making sure that they are nice and clean. While I continue to wait for the water in my kettle to boil, I'm going to get the vinegar ready for when I wipe down the rims to each jar, just to make sure that it creates a nice, clean, tight seal during the canning process. Finally, it appears that my water is boiling, so I'm going to fill up each jar with the boiling water to the base of the neck, leaving about 1 inch of head space. Now here I will start to use a butter knife to debubble my jars. I do not claim to be the paragon of good canning practice, but I have to admit I should not be using a metal knife to debubble. So please, in your practice of safe canning, use a plastic or wooden utensil to help prevent any cracking. Here I am cleaning the rims with a little bit of vinegar on a paper towel before I put the lids and rims on just to make sure that we have a nice good seal. And I'm putting them in the warm water bath canner. And just look how pretty those cranberries look in your jar. A little bit of foreshadowing or advice from future Brianna: make sure you stir in your sugar when you pour the water in to make sure that it is dissolved. Now that the jars are full to the base of the neck, I'm going to come in with my dreaded metal butter knife and debubble both jars, and then filling up with more water if needed after the debubbling. Again, I'm going to come in with a vinegar dampened paper towel and wipe off the rims of the jars before I place each lid. I am going to fingertip tighten each of the rims before I put them into the water bath canner. Man overboard. In hindsight, it probably was not wise to have the rack just sitting up on the rim of the water bath canner like that. From now on, when I can something this big, I am going to just put them in the canner without the rack. Cranberries are acidic enough on their own to be safely canned by water bathing. This recipe called for me to water bath can these jars for 40 minutes based off of my elevation. Again, I'm just taking a second to wipe down the jars before I place the lids and rings, and then I will put them all in the canner. Of YouTube magic later, we have finished canned cranberry juice. My goodness, wait till you see how pretty these jars are. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Here I am putting the last two jars into the water bath canner. They didn't fit into the last batch, so I'm just going to balance them evenly in the water bath. My goodness, friends, look at how beautiful these jars are. Remember how I said to make sure your sugar was stirred in? You can definitely see it has its own layer there, but man, are these pretty. I canned these around Christmas time, and it really was festive for me. And this is a couple days later. Make sure that you leave your jars untouched for at least 24 hours. I think I waited 2 days before I moved mine. I did notice here that I did have a little bit of siphoning, but there's definitely enough liquid, so I'm not concerned. I'm just making sure to really test the seal of my jars by lifting them up by the lid itself and giving it a good jiggle. If the seal is intact, it will not fall, but if it is not intact, it will definitely release. Remember that tip that I gave you a little bit earlier in the video about stirring in your sugar? Here is when I'm noticing that all of my sugar has crystallized to the bottom of the jar. I'm shaking it, hoping that it will mix in and maybe dissolve as I move things around, but the more I shake it and turn it over, I realize it is not coming off. If that's okay, I'll just have a little bit more tart juice, so I'm just hoping that as they sit, they will do fine. So I'm just gonna let them go and hope for the best. And would you look at that? Look at how beautiful these jars are. This is 2 days later, and lucky for me, the sugar actually dissolved into the juice. According to the recipe, you should wait 4 to 6 weeks for the best result, but I'm very happy with these. Look at how pretty they are. I'm so excited, I can't wait to try them.